The smoke had not cleared yet. The sky was dark with ash. Fires still burned in the distance. The ground was full of broken machines, burned trees, and bodies that would never move again. Lyra lay at the edge of a giant crater, her body twisted, her skin torn. One leg was bent in the wrong direction. Her arm was burned. Her purple blood had dried into thick crusts. Flies buzzed over her face, landing on the open wounds, crawling over her lips and eyelids. But she did not move. She couldn't. Her people had run when the last human drones came. They didn't look back. She was too slow, too weak, not useful anymore. Lyra blinked once. The sky above her was gray and silent now. The sound of war was gone. But she felt no peace. Only pain, deep pain, in her bones, in her heart. I'm going to die here, she thought. Alone. She closed her eyes. No one would bury her. No one would cry. She was not important to anyone. Then she heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. A human? Her eyes opened slightly. Fear entered her chest. The stories were clear. Humans showed no mercy to her kind. They were monsters, cold, brutal, hungry for revenge. If a human found her, he would finish what the bomb started. She stayed still, breathing shallow. The footsteps came closer, crunching through the dust and bone. Then they stopped. Silence. A man's voice. Rough. Low. What the hell? He stood over her now, tall, wearing dirty armor but no weapons in hand. His face was rough, scarred, his eyes tired. Not a soldier, no rank badge, just a man. His name was Jack. Jack had come looking for old parts, machines to sell, not bodies. He wasn't ready for her. She looked dead, almost. But then her fingers twitched, barely, just once. Alive. He stepped back. He could walk away. Nobody would know. Nobody would care, but he didn't. Instead, he knelt down. He saw her chest rise and fall, slow but steady. Her lips were dry. Her fingers were trembling. Damn, he whispered. He opened his small pack. Only one thermal blanket, one water bottle, a few med sticks. He should have saved them for himself. But he couldn't leave her. Jack placed the blanket over her body. Carefully. Slowly. Her eyes opened fully. Now just a crack. She saw his face, not angry, not smiling, just human. Why? She whispered, barely able to speak. He didn't answer at first. He looked out at the dead field. His own friends had died here too. He took a deep breath. Because you're still breathing, he said, and that's enough. He gave her a few drops of water, lifting her head gently. She coughed, choked, then swallowed. It felt like life, like warmth. Lyra looked at him again. His hands were rough but gentle. He didn't look at her like a thing, or an enemy. He looked at her like a person. The blanket hugged her body now. She wasn't warm yet, but the cold wasn't eating her bones anymore. Jack sat beside her, watching the dark sky. He took out a flare stick and shot it into the air. A red light floated slow and bright. It was a signal, a rescue sign. But would anyone come? And if they came, would they help her or shoot her? Lyra didn't ask. She just watched the man beside her. Jack didn't talk much, but his actions spoke louder than words. He had no reason to help her, no reward, no duty. Still he stayed. Still he watched. Still he protected. As night fell and the fires cooled, the flies left her wounds. The buzzing was gone. In its place was silence and one human, one man, who did not walk away. Jack hadn't worn a uniform in years. He wasn't a soldier, not anymore. Just a mechanic who had survived too many battles and lost too many friends. He didn't fight for flags. He fought for food, for fuel, for another day to breathe. And yet, there he was, kneeling beside an alien girl. shielding her from the wind with his own body. The sky above them had turned purple. The flare he fired earlier still glowed faintly, hanging in the thick air like a dying star. But no rescue ship had come. Not yet. The girl, Lyra, barely moved. But her eyes opened now and then. She was watching him. Jack looked down at her. "You're lucky I found you," he said quietly. But Lyra didn't feel lucky. Her people had left her. Her body was broken, and now, a human, of all creatures, was the only one who stayed. It didn't make sense. She tried to speak again, her voice weak. Are you going to sell me?" Jack laughed once bitterly. "Sell you? Who'd buy a half-dead alien girl with a broken leg?" Lyra blinked slowly. She didn't know if that was a joke or a warning. Jack sighed. "I'm not like the others. I fix things, machines, engines, broken drones, not people." Then he looked at her again. "But maybe I'll try." He opened a rusted metal case and took out a med stick. It was old but still worked. He pressed it against her thigh. A soft hiss. Pain, relief. She gasped, then relaxed slightly. "Better?" he asked. She gave a tiny nod. He gave her a little more water. Then he looked around. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows over the wreckage. This place would soon become dangerous. Wild drones, scavenger bots, even worse. Hungry things that came out only after dark. He had to move her. He stood up and looked down at Lyra. "Okay, this is gonna hurt." Before she could answer, he lifted her into his arms. She cried out. Her leg twisted. Her burned skin touched his armor. She bit her lip to stop screaming. Jack held her tighter. I know, just hold on." The walk was slow. Through metal debris, sharp rocks, and ash-covered bodies. Jack's boots left deep prints. Lyra clung to his chest, too weak to protest, her arms limp around his neck. She wanted to close her eyes again. To sleep. Maybe forever. But Jack's heartbeat in her ear, steady and warm, kept pulling her back. He talked while he walked. Mostly to himself. "You ever heard of Juno Base?" "Yeah, well, that's where I used to live. Not much left now, just dust and ghosts." She didn't answer, but she listened. "I had a brother once," he said. "Smart guy. Always knew how to fix things better than me. He died in the first attack, never even saw it coming." Silence. Then he said, softer, "You remind me of him. Not the look, just the eyes. Like you're not ready to give up, even if you should." The path ahead was rough. A broken slope led to an old shelter, half, buried under soil and bones. Jack had found it months ago and kept it hidden. A place with walls, a place with a heater. He reached it just before the last light faded. He kicked the door open with his boot and stepped inside. Old power cells hummed. A single lamp glowed. He laid Lyra down on a bed made of scrap fabric and foam. She looked around, slowly, weakly. "You live here?" he chuckled. "If you can call it living." He poured water into a small bowl and placed it near her. Then, without asking, he started cleaning her wounds with a cloth. She flinched, but didn't stop him. Jack worked carefully, not gently, but not cruelly either, like a man who had patched up too many broken things. Hands that knew what they were doing, even if the heart was tired. When he finished, she looked at him again. "You could have left me." "I still might," he said. She smiled just a little, a painful, cracked smile. "But you didn't." Jack stood up. "Don't thank me yet. I've got no plan, no rescue, no medbay." She closed her eyes. Still, better than dying with the flies. Jack looked down at her for a long time. Then he turned off the lamp. Outside, in the darkness, strange creatures howled. But inside, the small bunker stayed quiet. Lyra slept. For the first time in days. And Jack? He sat by the door, gun in hand, watching, protecting. The Night was cruel. Winds howled through broken trees like ghosts crying. Cold air pushed through the cracks of the old bunker. The walls creaked. The heater flickered, weak and dying. Inside, Jack sat on the floor with his back to the wall. His eyes didn't close. His hand never left his sidearm. Lyra slept on the cot. Her breaths were shallow but steady. The burns on her body still looked angry, but she was no longer shaking. Jack looked at her again. In her sleep, she murmured something, words from a language he didn't understand. Soft. Sad. He leaned forward. Her hand moved slightly toward the edge of the cot, as if reaching for someone in a dream. He didn't touch her. Instead, he stood up, walked to the other side of the room, and opened a small, dented crate. Inside, folded carefully, was a thick, brown thermal blanket, his last one. Still clean. He stared at it for a long time. He only had one. The heater might die before sunrise, and once it died, the cold would come fast. He touched the blanket and closed his eyes. Jack could use it for himself. He could stay alive longer. Smarter choice. But then he looked back at the girl. No, the person on his cot. Alien or not, she was wounded. Her body was smaller than his, her frame thinner. She wouldn't last an hour without warmth. Jack sighed and carried the blanket over. He placed it over her gently, not waking her, not saying anything, just choosing. By morning, frost had formed on the inside walls of the bunker. Jack's fingers were stiff. He had given Lyra the cot, the blanket, and most of the heat. All he had now was a cold jacket and a stubborn will. The heater coughed one last time and shut off completely. Jack didn't move. He just stared at the power gauge. Dead. He heard movement. Lyra was waking up. Her eyes opened, slow and confused. Then, she saw the blanket on her. She touched it. Warm. Clean. Not hers. She looked around and saw Jack curled near the door, arms crossed, body stiff. "You gave it to me," she whispered. He didn't answer. She sat up, wincing as her ribs ached. "Why?" Jack opened one eye. "Because I made a choice, same as last night. But I'm not one of you." "Doesn't matter," he said. "Pain doesn't care about species." Lyra stared at him, eyes soft. "No one has ever chosen me before. Not even my own people." Jack didn't speak. He just stood, slowly, and stretched his back. His breath was visible in the cold. "We need heat," he muttered, "or we both freeze." He opened a panel in the wall and pulled out old tools. The heater's guts were exposed now, wires like veins, cold and dead. Jack got to work. Sparks flew, smoke rose. His hands moved fast, even as they turned red from cold. Lyra watched, silent. After a while, she whispered, "I used to heal people." Jack paused. "You?" he asked, glancing back. "Yes, I was a medic. But my people said I was too soft, too kind. They said kindness was weakness." Her voice cracked. "So they left me behind." Jack turned back to the wires. "They were wrong." Lyra blinked. "You don't even know me." Jack didn't look at her. "Don't need to." Suddenly, the heater hummed. Lights blinked. Warmth crept into the air, slow but alive. Lyra smiled for the first time. It was a small smile, faint but real. Jack stood up and sat down beside the wall again. "We'll stay here one more night," he said. "Then move." "Where?" "North. Human zone. Safer. Maybe." She looked at him, afraid. "They'll shoot me." "I'll talk to them," Jack said. "Will they listen?" Jack smiled. "They don't always listen to me either." Lyra pulled the blanket tighter around herself. Then, after a long pause, she said, "You could leave me here." "I won't. You should." Jack looked at her, and then, softly, he said, "I already made my choice." That night, Lyra didn't cry. She didn't tremble. She didn't ask why anymore. Instead, She sat beside Jack, sharing silence. The war had taken her people, her place, her name. But now, someone had chosen her. And even if the galaxy still burned, even if tomorrow brought death, for tonight she was not alone. The morning came without sunlight. A thick fog covered the land, mixing smoke and dust into one gray sheet. The battlefield outside looked frozen in time, machines half buried, bodies untouched, and silence that screamed. Jack adjusted the strap of his backpack. Inside were scraps, tools, and a few rations. He held a small map in his hand, burned, in one corner, and circled a location in red ink, Sector 12. Human checkpoint, he muttered. He turned to Lyra, who sat on the cot, still wrapped in the blanket. She looked stronger now, but only just. Her leg was still injured, and walking. Would be hard, you sure you're ready? He asked. She nodded. If I stay, I die. Jack offered her a piece of dried fruit. She took it carefully, her fingers still shaking. She bit into it with a soft crunch. He knelt down and tied a brace around her leg, something he built from broken armor and belt straps. Not perfect, but enough to help her stand. When she took her first step, she winced but didn't fall. You're tougher than you look, Jack said. She looked at him. That's what they never saw. They left, the bunker with the rising wind behind them. Every step was heavy. Every sound made Jack reach for his weapon. The ash muffled their movements, but it also made it hard to see what was ahead. A broken war drone lay twisted on the hill. Jack stopped and pulled out a sharp tool. What are you doing? Lyra asked. Battery core, he said. Might need it later. He worked fast, but just as he pulled the core free, he heard it. Clink, clink. Metal feet in the distance. Jack ducked and grabbed Lyra's hand. Down. They dropped behind a burnt-out crawler. Lyra peeked through a hole in the metal. Her heart stopped. 4 security bots marched through the smoke, scanning the ground. Red lights blinking. Searching. Cold. Merciless. Jack whispered. They're scavenger patrols, left behind to clean up or eliminate. They're your kind's machines, she whispered. He shook his head. Not mine. Just tools for men who never came back. The bots turned toward their direction. Jack cursed under his breath and pulled out a small flash grenade. When I throw this, we run. You can't outrun them, Lyra said. I can if I carry you. Her eyes widened. You'll slow down. Better than being vaporized. He threw the grenade. A burst of white light exploded in the fog. Now, he lifted Lyra in his arms, ignoring the weight, and sprinted. The bots beeped wildly behind them. One fired a warning shot that hit the ground inches from Jack's boot. They ran into a narrow ditch lined with bones and broken helmets. Jack didn't stop until they reached a collapsed wall. He dropped behind it and held Lyra tight as the ground above shook with movement. But the bots didn't follow. They passed over the trench, lost in the fog, moving on. Lyra gasped for air. Her face pressed to Jack's chest. He looked down at her. You okay? She nodded slowly. I think I forgot how to breathe. He let out a breath of relief and sat back. I didn't carry you because you're weak, he said. I carried you because I'm stubborn. She smiled weakly. Stubborn human. You could have died. He shrugged. Almost did. They rested for an hour before moving again. The landscape changed. Broken towers, empty roads, dust storms rolling. Across like ghosts. Lyra walked now, slow but firm. Jack walked beside her, always watching. She pointed at the sky. See that? He looked up. A flock of flame wings, alien birds, flew overhead in silence. They only fly when danger is near, she said. Great, Jack muttered. That's just what we need. But the real danger wasn't in the sky. It came from behind a collapsed fuel station. Voices, human voices, rough, angry. Jack raised his hand. Stay low. He crept forward and peeked. 3 human scavengers stood beside a fire, burning alien armor for heat. One of them held a rifle, the other 2 wore stolen medals. One of them shouted, "If I see one more alien, I'm mounting its head." Lyra flinched behind Jack. Jack pulled back. "They'll kill you on sight," he whispered. "Then go," she said. "I'll hide." He looked at her for a long time. "No." He stood up, walked straight into the clearing. The men pointed weapons. "Who the hell?" Jack raised his hands. "Easy. Just passing through." They lowered their guns slightly. "You alone?" Jack paused. "Yeah. Alone." Lyra waited, frozen behind the wall. Then she heard one man say, "You're Jack Kellen, right? From Juno Base?" "Used to be. You're the one who fixed the Vanguard engine during the blackout. You saved 30 lives." Jack nodded. The man laughed. "You're a damn legend." They shared some water, told old stories. Jack kept them busy, long enough for Lyra to crawl past unseen. When Jack rejoined her later, her eyes were wet. "You lied to them," she whispered. "I protected you." "Why?" He looked ahead and said softly, "Because you're not my enemy." They reached the edge of a broken canyon by sunset. Orange light spread across the sky like fire, painting the cracked rocks in blood-red colors. The wind howled low, carrying whispers of war and memories no one wanted to keep. Jack set down his pack and helped Lyra sit on a flat stone. She winced as she moved, her injured leg now wrapped tighter in cloth. Her breaths were steady, but her eyes... They were far away. "Rest here," Jack said. "We'll move again when the stars come out. The drones don't fly at night." Lyra nodded. She was quiet. Too quiet, Jack noticed. "You've been holding something back," he said, sitting beside her. She looked away. "You can tell me," he added softly. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, slowly, she unwrapped the small cloth pouch she had hidden beneath her chestband. Inside was something small, something glowing, a silver tag. It shimmered faintly in the evening light. It wasn't a weapon, it wasn't tech, just a tag with a name engraved in soft alien script. Jack leaned closer. "What is that?" "My sister's name," Lyra whispered. "She was only 10 years old." Jack stayed silent. "She followed me into the medical tent the day we were attacked. She shouldn't have been there." Her voice trembled. "When the bombs fell, I shielded her with my body. I woke up burned. She didn't wake up at all." Jack's face softened. "I'm sorry. I begged the others to help me carry her, but they refused. They said she was already dead. They told me to leave her. I stayed until nightfall, then I buried her myself." She clenched the tag tightly. "When I returned to the unit, they called me a fool. Weak. They said I wasted my chance to escape." Jack swallowed hard. "So they left you behind?" "Yes." Her voice was small now. "Because I chose love, over orders." The wind blew softly through the canyon. Jack looked out at the endless stretch of dry land ahead. Then he spoke. "They did more than leave you. They lost you." Lyra blinked. "What do you mean?" "You're not weak," Jacker said. "You're the strongest person I've met. You carried your sister's memory when no one else would. That takes more than strength, it takes heart." Lyra's lips trembled. She turned her face away, wiping her eyes. "No one's ever said that to me before." Jack stood up and walked a few paces away, picking up a rock and tossing it into the canyon. The sound echoed. "You know," he said, "I lost someone too. My younger cousin, bright kid, loved building robots. We were hiding in a bunker when a biomissile hit. I pulled him out of the rubble, but he was already gone." He paused. "I carried his broken drone for a year after that, just to remember." Lyra looked at him, surprised. "You understand?" she whispered. "I understand loss. I understand being alone. And I understand why you buried your sister with your own hands." Lyra's fingers opened. The tag rested in her palm like a piece of her soul. "I thought humans were heartless monsters," she said. Jack smirked. "Most are. I'm just the exception." She gave a short laugh, weak but real. Then her face turned serious. I was supposed to hate you, but instead, I trust you. Jack met her eyes. You don't have to, but I'm glad you do. He returned to her side and looked up at the darkening sky. The first stars were appearing. Time to go, he said. Just a few more miles to the safe zone. Will they let me in? She asked, worried. Jack pulled out a scrap of metal with a red stamp on it. This is an old mechanic's pass. Doesn't scan species, just names. He handed it to her. From now on, your name is Kira. Kira? Yeah, it's close to yours, but different enough to stay hidden. She held the card like it was something sacred. Thank you. For everything. Jack gave her a nod. We're not done yet, but we're close. They stood together side by side. Lyra held her sister's tag in one hand, and her new identity in the other, and with the stars above and the cold ground below, they began walking again, not as enemies, not as strangers, but as two broken souls choosing to walk forward, together. They reached the edge of the safe zone just before dawn. The stars had begun to fade, and a pale blue light crept over the horizon. It was the kind of morning that made even broken land look beautiful. But Jack wasn't looking at the sky. He was looking at the watchtower, ahead. That's it, he said, pointing to a blinking tower light in the distance. Human checkpoint, 20 minutes more. Lyra, no, Kira, as she now called herself, leaned against his shoulder, limping but determined. Will they let me pass? She asked again. Jack answered with silence, not because he didn't care, but because he didn't know. They crossed a wide-open stretch of land. Old farmland turned to ash and moved toward a metal gate buried half in the ground. Then they heard it, buzzing, fast, mechanical. Jack turned. Hovercrafts, but not human, alien patrols, her own kind, coming low and fast, through the sky. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. She gripped Jack's arm. It's them. Jack pulled her behind a broken wall. He peeked out. 3 hovercrafts landed fast. Dust clouds rose. Boots hit the ground. Tall figures in black armor stepped out. Their helmets shone in the sunlight. One of them held a scanner. It blinked red. They're tracking something, Jack whispered. Me, Lyra said. They must have traced my DNA, or the tag. Jack turned to her. Can you run? She shook her head. I'll slow you down. We don't have time to argue. But before they could move, a loud voice echoed across the field, cold, sharp, and full of power. Lyra of Clan Veltar, step forward. You are under tribal judgment. Jack froze. They knew her name. Lyra stepped out from behind the wall. Her hands were raised. She looked thinner now, fragile, but her voice didn't shake. I am not part of your tribe anymore. The lead soldier took off her helmet. A female warrior with violet eyes. You bring shame. You left your duty. You let humans touch you. I didn't let them, Lyra said firmly. They saved me, something our clan never did. The warrior's lip curled. You are no longer pure. We should end you here. Jack stepped beside Lyra, placing himself between her and the guns. You'll have to shoot me first. The warrior raised her hand. Gladly. Guns lifted. Lyra shouted, Wait! Everyone paused. She reached into her satchel and pulled out the silver tag, her sister's name still glowing softly on it. This is all I have left, she said. I buried her. While you all ran, I stayed. I protected her. Not you, not the clan, me. She pointed at Jack. And he's the only one who chose not to leave me behind. The warrior stepped forward, her face unreadable. She took the tag from Lyra's hand, studied it, then turned away. You are no longer ours. You're the human's problem now. She threw the tag back at Lyra and walked off. The others followed. Without another word, the patrol disappeared back into the sky. Silence returned. Jack stood frozen, his hand still hovering near his gun. Lyra dropped to her knees. Not from weakness, but from the weight of it all. Jack knelt beside her. "You didn't have to do that." "I did," she said. "I needed to say it." He put a hand on her back. "You were braver than I could ever be." By the time they reached the human checkpoint, the sun had risen fully. 2 guards stood at the gate. Jack handed them his old mechanic's pass. They scanned it, looked at Lyra. "Who's she?" one asked. Jack replied, calm but firm. "Kira, war survivor, under my protection." The guards exchanged looks. One of them stepped forward, scanner in hand. Lyra didn't move. The scanner blinked. Red Jack reached for his ID. "Override code." Sector 17, Civilian Rights Protocol, Article 4. The guards hesitated. Then the older one nodded. "Fine. You vouch for her. She's your responsibility." Jack nodded. Lyra stepped forward, passing the gate. She turned back and looked at the field behind her. Her people had abandoned her. But this human, this mechanic with no rank, no badge, stood between her and death. Again. And this time, no one questioned it. Inside the gate, the walls were higher, the air warmer. People walked. Machines worked. Life was still broken, but not empty. Lyra followed Jack in silence. Finally, she whispered, "I don't belong anywhere." Jack looked over his shoulder. "You do now." The human camp was rough, but alive. Children ran between broken buildings. Food was cooking in metal pots over open fires. Soldiers walked without guns in their hands. Laughter floated in the air, tired, but real. Lyra, now called Kira, stood at the edge of it all, watching. She wore a long coat Jack had given her. It still smelled like oil and old tools, but it was warm. Safer than anything she'd worn before. No one stared at her here. No one whispered behind her back. Most didn't even know she was alien. But deep down, she still felt like she didn't belong, until he walked up beside her. Jack, the man with tired eyes and strong hands. He handed her a warm cup of something thick and sweet. She sipped it. It made her throat burn. "You'll get used to it," Jack said with a smile. "It's called coffee." She nodded slowly. "Strange flavor. But it doesn't taste like, or." Jack sat down on the bench next to her. "You've been quiet," he said. "I've been thinking." "About?" She looked up at the sky. No smoke, no fire, just blue. "All my life," she said, "I was told I had to earn my place. I had to fight, serve, obey. And still, they left me." She turned to him. "But you gave me a place without asking for anything." Jack shrugged. "That's what people do." "No," she said firmly. "That's what good people do." The next few days passed quietly. Jack gave her space. He worked on broken machines, patched generators, helped people repair heating coils and lights. Lyra followed, watching, learning. She began helping too. She stitched jackets, cleaned tools, organized supplies. The people noticed her, but not with fear. With respect. One evening, a child ran up to her. Human. Freckled. "Are you the lady who fixed our water pipe?" the boy asked. Lyra nodded slowly. The boy grinned. "Thanks. Mom says we can take real baths now." Then he ran off. Lyra stared after him, stunned. Jack saw her from across the workshop and raised his eyebrow. "You all right?" She blinked and whispered, "That's the first time I was thanked. For something good." Later that night, Lyra stood outside the bunker. Stars filled the sky. Jack came up beside her, carrying 2 blankets. "You're not cold?" She shook her head. "Not anymore." They sat on the ground, backs against the wall, silence stretching between them. "I don't know what comes next," she said at last. Jack looked at her. "You don't have to. Just take one day at a time." She turned to him, eyes soft. "Do you think I can make a life here?" Jack didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled something out, a small metal tag, her sister's tag. He had cleaned it, polished it, added a tiny chain to wear around the neck. He handed it to her. Lyra took it with, shaking hands. "I thought I lost this when we ran," she whispered. "You dropped it the day the patrol came," Jack said. "I picked it up." She looked at him and saw something in his eyes she had never seen before. Not in her clan, not even in herself. "Hope. You always protect me," she said. He chuckled. "You keep making it hard not to." Then his voice turned serious. "I don't know much about love, but I know loyalty. I know what it means to stand with someone when no one else will." Lyra stared at the tag in her hand, then back at the man beside her. "I want to stay," she said. "Not because I'm lost, but because I've been found." Jack smiled softly. "Then stay." They sat together under the stars, two survivors, one human, one alien, no longer alone, not broken, not forgotten, but found, together.